Welcome back. That's right, baby. It's me again. It's a King, baby. Happy Wednesday. We halfway through now. Oh yeah. Let's get this disclaimer out of the way real quick. Remove myself so I can read this. SHIT. Deal to me. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's given me the opportunity to earn your viewership and your subscription. It means, like I said, a great deal to me. And I also would like to acknowledge some of these other channels that I've come across, whether it be 89 Tools with Holly B. Check her out; she's got great stuff. CE Dena Tools or CE Tools, check them out. A man down in Tejas, Magic Mike, down there in Texas. Check out Mike. You'll be able to see these on some of the shorts, and I'll put links to some of these channels if I haven't done so already in the description afterwards. And then, last but not least, I just found this cat the other day. He's in Germany. Actually, he works at the Porsche dealership in Germany, and his name is Louis. He's got a nice channel. You can see what things are like over there across the pond, what things look like inside the shop, what kind of tools they use. I mean, gives you a little bit of different insight. And I highlight these three individuals because I see something in them that I once saw in myself. And I see how hard they're willing to work and how hard they actually do work. And, it's a passion. And you can tell that they truly enjoy what they do, whether it's going to be talking about working on vehicles or whether it's talking about tools. They don't make it sound like it's drudgery and the same old shit that everybody else puts out there. You could see these individuals in action doing the damn thing with the tools that they are using. And also, it's not promoting, it's just something that works. And if it's cost effective and it can save you money, then why not? Tell me who doesn't want to save money right now. I don't see any hands. Okay, so we're good there. All right. All right. Let me start off by saying, clip this. I have no problem with the tools that Stanley, Black, and Decker put out. They're fine. My problem is not with the tools. The tools themselves are not the issue. The company is a whole nother story. And when I tell you a little bit more, you might have known some of these things, you might not have known some of these things. But there's four entities, we'll call them, that I am not a fan of. Not a fan of at all for various reasons. And I can go into it on different things, but tonight's going to be Stanley Black and Decker. Stanley Black and Decker. They're not number one on my list. I don't have a list. I just got four companies, entities. I don't want to hurt them or do anything like that. It's nothing malicious or nothing like that. Nothing crazy. I'm over here trying to be the best at getting arrested and for making terrorist threats or anything like that. No, no, no. Nothing like that. I just strongly disagree with how they do business, how they are ran, who's making some of these calls. In some cases, You know, just the thought process. What is going on in the heads and the minds of some of these individuals when they're making these decisions make little to no sense to the common person, at least. Me, you, anybody else that breathes air and depends on sustenance. So all the things necessary to be able to live. And we're not talking about the economy in regards to this show and this episode tonight. This is going to start off with Stanley, Black, and Decker. It's going to be a little bit of history. It's going to be a little bit about the brands that they've destroyed and how their mismanagement and how them being the steward of legacy and heritage brands like Porter Cable, Craftsman, Bostitch, McCullough. Some of these you might not have heard of McCullough before, probably because they're not around anymore. Probably because when Black and Decker, well, we'll get into that. I don't want to jump ahead, but I will say this: the four entities, we'll call them, in no special order. Already, you got Black and Decker. That's one. The other one's not around anymore, Sears, and that's a case study still in the works. And there's been so many case studies done on that, and how that was allowed to even happen is beyond me. The other one, Ford. If you, and last but not least, the largest employer in America, the U.S. government. Man. And you know what? I've given my shout outs. I told you which entities, and with good reason. And like I said, I'm not denouncing my country or my flag or my allegiance to America. Nothing like that. I'm not talking crazy. I will tell you that I will not purchase anything Stanley Black and Decker related, though. I'm not going to continue to contribute to a company that does not care about the people. The people are what matter, not the bottom line. People are not a line item. Okay? That's what these corporations don't seem to get. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let me open my drink. And we don't drink alcohol. I just got some of these sparkling ices, which are still $1 where I am, from your local Walmart, which it's not on my list of companies that, entities, whatever you want to call them, that I can't stand. A lot of people can't stand them, but they'll still shop there. So Walmart, it's a different story. That's a different story altogether. But Walmart, they've got their own issues as well. Believe me, they got plenty of them. Plenty. And yeah, I got the glasses on. You notice that now, huh? All right. All right. Okay. Let me make sure I got my notes. Well, you're wearing your sunglasses at night. Well, I didn't tell you. Must not be any of your fucking business then, huh? Clip that. So, our story starts in 1986. Why 1986? Listen. So in 1986, U.S. vehicle import regulations were heavily shaped by voluntary export restrictions, VERs, okay? Now, what that did was cap the Japanese car shipments, forcing brands like Honda to expand U.S. manufacturing, especially in their Maryville, Ohio plant. Simultaneously, there was also a massive, what you want to call, gray market loophole allowed to where individual imports of non-conforming foreign vehicles, which triggered intense regulatory crackdown and eventually led to the 25-year import ban. And the trade code environment basically very similar to what happened before the Japanese attacked World War II. You're trying to limit the amount of product they can import. You capped it at a certain amount. They increased production in the United States. When they increased the production here in the United States in Maryville, Ohio, the Civic was introduced. Keep that just keep that in mind. U.S. regulations wants to stop the amount of imports coming in because they're making the American cars look bad. They're far superior in fuel efficiency. They're more economical, and people like them. And while this is all happening and Honda's being introduced and Toyota and Nissan are being introduced into the American market and these cars are coming in, they're also doing something very strategic at the same time. They're studying and they're analyzing it, they're seeing and they're discovering that, these Americans, they like to look like they got money. They like to look rich. They like to live that fat life. You know what I'm saying? They like to look like they got all the money in the world and no cares. And nothing matters. Well, they were right. Americans do like to flaunt their wealth when they have it, and they're not ashamed of it one bit. And whether you agree or disagree with that statement, that's entirely up to you. I guess that depends on where you fall in that line. Are you that individual that needs to have the latest, greatest, and always wants to try to show somebody else up? Huh? Is that you? No? All right, then you're good. And if that is you, you're still good as long as you can afford it. I got no skin in this game. I don't have debt. I don't owe anybody any money that's getting paid. And I'm not concerned with that shit. I'm not trying to have the nicest, newest car. I don't need the fastest car. I don't need the car with the most horsepower, the most torque. I don't need any of that shit because I don't. For the most part, unless you're in a industry that requires you to have it and your employer doesn't provide it for you and you have to buy your own, then yeah, I get it. But otherwise, you don't need it. You're trying to, like I said, you're trying to live that life is just showing shit off that it doesn't impress people. It actually, when I see people and they got a fucking, this a new Cadillac or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, you gotta have some grip to get that $110,000 Gen 5 Caddy. You got to, otherwise, what are you doing in it? But then I also realize that the individuals that are selling this motherfucker are just as irresponsible as the people buying them. The consumers are just as bad as the people that are peddling the product because they don't care what your financial situation is going to be in 3 or 4 months. Once they get this sale done, if that fucking vehicle you can't make that $1,000, $1,200 payment, whatever it is for that car, depending on how much you put down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they're going to come get that motherfucker. And then you know what? You got no wheels, you got no vehicle, and you're stuck. But that's that. Anyway, so that happened. And like I said, prior to World War II, these export, the Japanese prime minister, he walked out of the League of Nations, and that was it. That was it. He was out. After that, we got December 7th, 1941. That was Pearl Harbor, in case anybody was curious. But anyway, back to 86. So they increased the production here, okay? And what they did after they realized that they could make more money by doing one simple thing more than anything else. They rebadged their Hondas and turned them into Lexuses. Yeah, they took the Honda Integra and rebadged it and called it the Acura Integra. Honda was the first to do that. They also brought a V6 engine and F1 suspension to the game, plus premium features like leather seats, etc., and a V6 engine, the first one that Honda made for US market in a vehicle. So then what happens? They've got a luxury vehicle to compete with the luxury vehicles of the time, which were considered the top tier luxury vehicles of the time were your European BMWs, Mercedes. Those were Porsche. Those were top notch. Those were the best of the best. Audi. And as far as American brands go and their luxury class, you had Cadillac, you had Lincoln, you had, I'm trying to think of a luxury line of Chrysler. Benz, Stellantis, whatever the hell they are now. Still better than Ford, but not any good. And speaking of which, 2027 models are coming out, and you still got 2025 inventory. What does that tell you? Maybe there's not a need to continue to build new cars and nobody's buying because they can't afford them, even if you cut them down to half price when you price them out of anybody that would even be interested in them. Think about that one? No? All right, just checking. So anyway, back to these assholes, Stanley Black and Decker. Now, Stanley Black and Decker was originally a catalog company. Okay? It was well. Let me finish this European thing real quick, and then we'll move on to these assholes. And then, as far as the production goes, like I said, they increased production of the Civic, which they added in '86, the Legend '86, the Integra '86. 1989, Lexus came out with the LS 400, and then shortly thereafter, almost neck and neck, the Infiniti was released by Nissan, the Q45, and I think they released, there's a couple they released, I don't remember which models, but the Q45 was one of them. I want to say it was 930, but it could have been M as well, but I don't remember now. But anyway, that's how Lexus and Acura and Infiniti came to be. If you go to Japan, they've got Toyotas, they've got Nissans, they've got Acura or Hondas. Yeah, you can get an Acura, you can get a Lexus, you can get an Infiniti, but why? Everybody over there already understands that you're buying the same vehicle that's been rebadged. And a lot of those original 86 ones were just rebadged. So remember that. Remember that play. Remember that play because it's going to come into play very shortly. So the story of DeWalt, or that's going to be in the story of DeWalt. Specific brands that of course, Craftsman. Craftsman was a staple of this country. It helped build this country. You got it from Sears. They paid $900 million. $900 million. They paid $100 million per letter because all they bought was a name. Why? Because Sears never produced a single tool. Clip that. Sears never made a single tool. They outsourced everything to American manufacturers, forges, etc., and they would produce here in the States. And that would, like I said, it was job security. It kept people fed. It allowed people to have a skilled trade that they would be able to pass on. In theory, pass that on, etc. It didn't exactly work out that way because this is where things start getting kind of weird. And, when it comes to Stanley Black and Decker, I can kind of parallel them. You can click this. Stanley Black and Decker is kind of like Thanos trying to gather Infinity Stones and just absorb as much other companies and corporations to add to their portfolio as they can. And every company that these motherfuckers have touched has absolutely gone to shit. Let's start with Porter Cable. Okay? Porter Cable, they were the first power tool company to be recognized and put in a display for their power tools in the Smithsonian. Clip that. Did you hear what I just said? The Smithsonian Institute has a dedicated display, a section for Porter Cable. What did Porter Cable do? Well, what Porter Cable did was they were the first ones to bring to market the Takeabout. What's that? Oh, it's the first electric belt sander. What else did they bring to market? And this was all Emmons that did this, by the way. And we can go into him and explain what he did. And Emmons was the one who also brought to market the first helicoil circular saw, as opposed to your worm drive, worm gear, skill saw type design where the motor gives you more torque because it's directly bolted to where all the power needs to go. So you got more torque. But with the helical one, the motor is side mounted, it's lighter, and it is just a little bit easier to use. So more compact, lighter, and back then, kind of like now, it's not a bad thing to have a lighter tool. Not always the best thing, but you do what you do, you need what you need, you use what you use. You make do with what you got if that's all you got. Okay? So that's Porter Cable. Porter Cable, unbelievable. And then also Porter Cable, first one with the random orbital sander. That's right, the electric cordless sander. That was, once again, Porter Cable. This was a tool that was trusted. This was a tool that had a dedicated following, a very good reputation, very good build quality, excellent tools. And they were put in the Smithsonian in 1996 when Archibald, the CEO at the time, purchased Porter Cable from Pantier, which now specializes strictly in water-based solutions and just water containment, water filtration, purification, water management, water treatment, water. That's all they do. So they sold their entire tool line, which was Flex. Yes, like the Flex, like Flex. That Flex, like Siobhan has now. Yes, that Flex. Stanley Black & Decker had that at one time. Yes. It was Flex, DeVilbiss, Delta. Who else? It was Flex, DeVilbiss, Delta, and I want to say, let me double check because I want to say that aside from that, it was also another one here. Can't remember. Of course, sometimes the old notes are a little bit all over the place. But they purchased that, and that was in '05. So yeah, that was, excuse me, that was in '04. So that was in '04, and then while they're paying 700 some odd $1 million for those brands for Pantene, and just adding them to the brand portfolio architecture, which is basically what they want. It's, the crown jewel of Stanley Black and Decker is DeWalt. Right? DeWalt is their baby. That is their bread and butter. That's what they stake their reputation on nowadays, is DeWalt. And DeWalt, and these tools that I'm telling you about, none of them are bad tools. And there's nothing wrong with any of them. The only problem is that the company's just shit. It's just a terrible company. I'm telling you. They have eroded and destroyed this country just as bad as those other entities that I've mentioned. But it's trying to see what, because it was more than just a Vilbus. And let's see here. All right. Well, they end up selling off a lot of the. Well, they sold off Flex right away, and they, McCullough was a chainsaw company before there was Steel. Steel was around. McCullough was that company. They bought McCullough in the '60s and just completely just tore it apart. From excellent chainsaws, excellent quality, some of the best you can get, trusted by arborists, lumberjacks, Bigfoot, various other Sasquatches, and abominable snowmen. And in 1999, what happened? Chapter 11. So that might be why you never heard of them. Porter Cable, what happened to them? They relegated them to the back shelf of Tractor Supply, which is in 49 states, in case you weren't aware. 49 states, you got a Tractor Supply company. That leaves one state. What state do you think that is? I know what state it is. It's Alaska. It's too much suspense. But yeah, Alaska is the only state that does not have a Tractor Supply. It would probably be a little bit difficult with the supply chain, and I understand that. But you would think the same about Hawaii, too. And they got one in Puerto Rico. I'm telling you. But Alaska, surely there's no need for any type of store such as Tractor Supply Company in a place like Alaska. That would make no sense, would it? Sons of bitches. So they destroyed McCullough. They destroyed Bostitch. Yeah, when they bought Bostitch, like I said, it was started by Briggs back in 1896, if I'm not mistaken. And some of the best tailors and staplers, and then it evolved into some of the best pneumatic equipment. And then DeWalt or Stanley Black and Decker got their hands on them, and they just fell apart. They just fell apart. Let me backtrack back to the Honda and Acura thing. You can look this up for yourself. With very few exceptions, like the NSX, all these Hondas are coming off the same line as the Acuras, with the exception of an NSX, because that's coming out of a separate plant, separate factory altogether. More of a speed shop car. That's different animal altogether. So that's not coming out of the same plants that you're going to have your other Hondas and Acuras coming out of, but Hondas and Acuras come out of the same plant. You know what else comes out of the same plants? Bostitch, Black & Decker, DeWalt, Porter Cable, Craftsman, and basically everything under the Stanley Black & Decker conglomerate all comes from the same place. And what they do is, I'll try to explain this. So here's what they do. It's called value extradition and the brand name lie. And then I'll backtrack again to the past. And this is where the Honda story is going to make sense. This is where the DeWalt story will make sense. I promise. Just stick with me. So, value extradition, the brand name lie. Okay, so ultimately, the modern tool manufacturing relies on component sharing. Okay, Stanley Black & Decker uses its massive supply chain to manufacture standardized motors, pumps, and triggers in the same facilities. Let me repeat that in case you missed it. Clip this. Modern tool manufacturing relies on component sharing. Stanley Black & Decker uses its massive supply chain to manufacture standardized motors, pumps, and triggers in the same facility. The premium internal parts are routed to DeWalt, while older, cost-optimized or value-engineered platforms are stamped with the Bostitch or Porter Cable logos. Stanley Black & Decker capitalizes on the residual trust of the legacy that Bostitch, that Porter Cable, that Craftsman name have as the entry-level tools to buyers who remember that they used to be bulletproof, or they used to be this, or they used to be that, but when they get them, they're nothing like that. They're nothing like that at all. Craftsman, here's one for you. From 1958 to 1992, the radial arm saw. The radial arm saw was invented by a man named Raymond DeWalt. What else did Raymond DeWalt invent? Nothing. The radial arm saw. If you've never seen a radial arm saw, they are available, they are around, but you won't see them because they've been replaced by things like miter saws, compound sliding miter saws, table saws. So the radial arm saw, when Raymond DeWalt had invented it and named it, what do you call it, the Wonder Worker? I believe that's what it was called, or the Wonder. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. I almost want to look it up, but I'm pretty sure it was called the Wonder some shit. Wonder. I'm pretty sure it's Wonder Worker, but anyway. So Raymond DeWalt, radial arm saw, and the radial arm saw basically it's got a post, it's got a handle, it's got a saw. It does not have a blade guard, or it did not have a blade guard. And from 1958 to 1992, there was a recall on it. Why? Because when it was made and brought to market by Raymond DeWalt, I can understand why there would not be a blade guard necessarily. But it was a lot safer than you had before because you would lose fingers. It made life exceptionally easier and less dangerous for the worker. And it also made the work more efficient because now you're taking the saw to the wood. And, you're still going to have kickback and, without a blade guard, that could be a problem. And they had a recall on the radial arm saw, Craftsman's radial arm saw, manufactured by, at that point, anybody? Okay. I'll let you figure that one out yourself. But Craftsman from 58 to 92 have recalls on the radial arm saw because of the blade and the fact that there was no guard. So that's just tip of the iceberg with these guys. It's insane. So safety concerns, no big deal. Things were really bad in the 70s is when it started to show that manufacturing was slowly starting to deteriorate because the institutions that were utilizing the manufacturing here in the US never owned any of the manufacturer or any of the plants or the forges. They didn't own any of those. They just hired them out and had them manufacture their tools according to their specifications. So there was never any, like I said, Sears never made a single tool. Never. Western Forge made tools for them. A lot of people made tools for them. And I don't believe any of them are around anymore. They're gone. They don't exist. The technology is not there anymore. We're going to get to why that's important. But now let's go back to 1992 real quick. January 1992 to be exact. And a man named Joseph Ghali Jr. Now, Joseph Ghali Jr., because of, and just clip this, in case you weren't aware, Black & Decker drilled the moon 3 meters into the moon for core samples. Okay? They also restored the Statue of Liberty with these tools. Black & Decker. Black & Decker. And if you don't understand, so they had to make a drill not only to drill into the moon for core samples, but they also used it for repairs on other things. And when you're in zero gravity, okay, if you have just a regular wrench and you turn the wrench, it is Newton's third law in action. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you turn the wrench is turning you. So Black & Decker had to develop a way to have a drill that would be able to spin a fastener on and or off and not spin the operator of it. So all of the mechanism inside of the drill was to make sure that it would offset. Keeping Newton's third law still absolutely 100% a law. You didn't break it, you just confirmed it until you engineered something that would be able to, it's not even circumvent or manipulate it, but you prove it, but you have to find a way to work around it, and they were able to do that. So a company that was able to do that, to restore the Statue of Liberty, to going to making fucking dustbusters. And that was the beginning of the end. Stanley Black & Decker, clip this, is going to be Sears 2.0 if they continue on the same path, because it's going to fail, and it's going to fail miserably, because as you continue to dilute and erode all of what made this country great in way of manufacturing and way of having our own materials here, of having not offshore or near shore, which is the exact same thing. The only difference is the difference in the distance of the supply chain, but it's still not helping anybody. Am I saying there aren't people that are driving across the border that's close enough to work for somebody else? No, absolutely not. I'm sure there probably is. I wouldn't doubt it, but I don't know how much money they're making. I wouldn't imagine it's a whole fucking lot. So that's just something to think about. But anyway, Joseph Ghali, 1992. By the end of the 80s, the Black & Decker name had lost its credibility. It had lost its trust. and it had lost its reputation of quality professional tools for the professional. Instead, they concentrated more on the consumer and bullshit products that nobody really needs. Kind of like what we got today, pretty much. But anyway, so what did Joseph Galley do? Joseph Galley took a play straight from Honda and did exactly what Honda did. He took already made existing professional Black and Decker tools, rebranded them black and yellow like a construction site or heavy equipment or caution, work in progress, that kind of thing. Took the DeWalt name, which was, you know, found in a cabinet somewhere, thought it sounded good. DeWalt never had anything to do with anything other than the radial arm saw, but they used the name, resurrected the name, and built a brand based on a lie. So in 1992, when DeWalt debuted their new power tool line named DeWalt, you were still buying Black and Decker. It was Black and Decker, and nothing has changed. Just like I told you, he basically followed the same playbook as what the what the people at Honda did. Did the same thing. He just rebadged it, named it something else, and used marketing and genius marketing at that in order to sell this product and push it out to the public. And it worked. Clip that. So, I haven't even got to the worst of it yet. So what happened at that point is after Galley did that, DeWalt started to build a reputation. I wasn't a big fan of DeWalt originally because I didn't know much about DeWalt. It just came out, try it out. All right, pretty cool. I got some old DeWalt stuff, but I don't use it. I'm not going to buy an adapter. I don't need an adapter. I'll not use and buy. I don't believe you. I'm not an adapter fan. No, not my thing. I'll buy the battery, but I'm not going to buy a $200 battery the size of a fucking lunchbox to power a tool. No, that's ridiculous. The battery costs more than the tool. We got an issue, and the tool is only as good as the battery. Forget about the hands it's in. That's one thing that's completely different. Tool's only as good as that battery. That battery goes to shit. That board goes to shit. Your tool is absolutely worthless. There is a better solution, another solution, an alternative. It's called hand tools. Learn how to use them. Invest in them. Get American. Get good American. Spend money with America. Buy Proto. Buy Right. Buy Tecton out of Michigan. Okay? Buy Wild. Buy Mayhew. Okay? There's plenty of brands still here in the U.S. They're just not, they're competing with these corporate giants. And, unfortunately, it's an uphill struggle. But you know what? I support the little guy. I always will. And they have my full backing, 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely fucking. So, to this day, everything that Stanley Black and Decker or Stanley Works, whatever you want to refer to them as, everything is coming out of the same shit. So when you buy a Porter Cable or a Black and Decker or a Bostitch, they're going to either be using parts that have come off, like I said, they're either parts that have been, it's just so crazy. It's so crazy how they just get this kind of crazy nonsense that's still branded as a premium brand. Now the premium internal parts, yeah, they're routed to DeWalt, but why are the older ones being completely just relegated to back shelves of stores? Not saying anything bad about the stores, but they deserve better. They deserve the recognition. They deserve to be remembered for what they did to build this country. And in a lot of cases, the beginnings of Black and Decker before they started, doing things that stopped working for the professional and they started concentrating on the consumer, on your regular DIY guy or whatever you want to call him, a guy that's not a professional, but a guy that can use tools well enough to get what he needs done. Why you would switch that policy, I don't know. Why you would sell off Flex, I don't know. Why you would buy 748, I believe, $1 million worth from Plantier and then strategically sell it off, even at a loss. Why you would buy McCullough just to break it down and destroy it and then have them file Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Yeah, you left this trail of destruction since, like I said, it started around 70s and it just gotten worse. It never got better because they stopped caring about the people and start caring about the profit. That's it. But they lost the reputation. They lost credibility. They lost respect. And those are things that are very difficult. If you ever get them back, you better thank God because a lot of people, once you lose them, you don't get them back. Look, that's facts. And the, this part here is so those are the four brands that really piss me off: Craftsman, Bostitch, McCullough, and Porter Cable. Just relegated to nothing, trying to be erased from the history books, not getting any recognition. Why don't you sell it off to a better steward that actually cares about tools and the brand and not the fucking line item? It's not a line item. It's not a bolt on, as the CEO referred to it as when they purchased it from Plantier. So it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous what they do to other corporations. Like I said, it's Thanos collecting Infinity Stone and trying to push his will against you, or just push his will upon you and make you bend down. And no, fuck that. And like I said, it's not that the tools are bad. The tools are not the problem. The corporation is the problem, and what they do to, yeah, they employ people here in the United States, and that's great. But what we need is manufacturing, and that's what we lack. And we need it not only to help this economy, which is absolute dog shit, but we need it so we can relearn a trade and a skill which is now forgotten or very limited. And if you don't understand the importance of bringing manufacturing back to the United States, then I don't know how I can possibly help you. We need to watch more videos together and get a little bit more in depth, a little bit, yeah, a lot more in depth. Talk a little bit. So let's go now. Fast forward a little bit. Craftsman. Unbelievable. So Sears ends up selling Craftsman in 2017 to the worst company they could have possibly sold it to, short of the government or Ford. Just saying. It's delicious. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sears wouldn't. I'll have to do that one separate because what they were doing was just absolutely fucking crazy. Just so insane, ridiculous with Eddie Lampert doing dumbest shit. Oh my God. Anyway, sorry. This idiot, instead of building stores, he should have been building factories. He should have been investing in the forges, in the manufacturing plants that were here. You know why Menards can outsell Home Depot, Lowe's, all these assholes on lumber? Because they own the fucking lumber yard. Clip that. That's why. And they'll give you 11% back. Just like that. Duh. Hi. Anyway. So it's I know it's tough. Plus the meds finally kicking in. So nothing illegal. Everything I got is prescribed. Don't fuck around. Don't mess with things you should not mess with. Don't take pills that you shouldn't be taking. Don't do anything that you shouldn't be doing. Try to avoid putting bad shit in your body and in your brain. Just make you fucking stupid. Anyway, so Sears gets Craftsman, or a Craftsman gets sold by Sears for $900 million. Porter Cable, along with the rest of the tools from Mantier, gets sold for $738 million, while TTI bought Milwaukee for $600 million. Less than all of them. Less than all of them. Less than all of them. Milwaukee. And if you compare the two companies, TTI and Milwaukee, and mind you, Milwaukee is now the fifth owner, or TTI is the fifth owner now of Milwaukee. And then its original owners, then it's been passed around. It's Atlas has had them, Merrill Lynch has had them, TTI, and then I want to say that for a short time, Plantier did have Milwaukee. I want to say that they did, but I'll have to do a little bit more digging because I remember they had them for a very short time, but I could be wrong. My memory might not be that great at this very moment, but I'm fairly confident they had them for a short time. Just like Milwaukee and DeWalt at one time for a very, very short time in the early 2000s, you could get them in Menards, but not anymore because of that pricing and the fact that Menards isn't going to budge on Menards fucking policy. It's not going to happen. Never. So that's one of the beauties of being a private company. But what Joseph Galley Jr. did, like I said, he rebranded it. He did it right. The marketing was done right. The tools were good. The tools were good. The tools are still good. The tools aren't bad, but people need to be more transparent and they need to understand what you're buying exactly. And when you walk into a Home Depot and you walk into a Lowe's, it's an artificial economy that you're buying into because you're not. When you're buying a Ryobi, you're buying a TTI. When you're buying a Milwaukee, you're buying a TTI. When you're buying a Ridge, you're buying a TTI. When you're buying, I mean, you see what I'm saying? When you're buying a DeWalt, you're buying Stanley Black & Decker. When you're buying a Black & Decker, you're buying a Stanley Black & Decker. When you're buying a Boston, you're buying a Stanley Black & Decker. When you're buying a Porter Cable, you're buying a Stanley Black & Decker. When you're buying a Hoover, you're buying a Milwaukee as far as the vacuum cleaner. So there's different things that these assholes do. But Joseph Galley Jr., he ended up building up the DeWalt brand, bringing it to prominence, making it a top brand, to this day, very much so. And he now, who he works for? He works for TTI. And you can see where TTI has gone in the quality of the tools TTI puts out. And like I said, there's no such thing as bad tools. There's expensive tools. There's cheap tools. There's, tools that are better than others, and some tools are the worst than others. No tool company makes a single best tool necessarily, but certain companies do specialize in certain tools that are better than other companies that don't. For example, Festool. You want probably the best woodworking tools? Go get Festool. If you want, tool that you could just absolutely beat the shit out of, get Hilti. If you want a powerful beast that's fast, doesn't give a fuck, get a Milwaukee. But it's all up to you. It's all up on you. What you want, what's your budget, what you're doing, what your trade is. And if your trade is nothing at all and you want to get into one, then no, I don't suggest that you go buy the most expensive tools. I recommend that you work your way up, do a little bit of research, go in, feel the tools, hold the tools, compare the tools. If you're in a position where they've got a little demo and you can play with the tools, assuming there's a fresh battery in it, you can, I know at Harbor Freight, they usually have something where you could test a drill or you could use one of the impacts to see if it'll pull out some fasteners. So things like that, just get in there and hold some tools and then compare them to some other tools, make a good decision. You can go by reviews, but reviews don't necessarily always tell the truth. This is just the facts. But here's the worst part. So they get Craftsman, all right, Stanley Black and Decker at this point in time. They merged in 2010. I believe the merger was like $4.65 billion between the two companies. And in 2017, Craftsman. And then they made a promise to bring Craftsman home. Okay, here we go. So what do? They spend $90 million to build a factory in Fort Worth, Texas, which they did. They were going to have 500 employees. But here's where it gets weird. And you can look at in the public record and the public filings for yourself to find out any more information that I might not be adding for yourself, for your own research. You don't have to take my word for anything. But this was during the pandemic era and supply chain issues, this and that. They get the plant built. Okay, they're expecting 500 employees. They're going to have automated machinery to do the work of what a person should be doing. Okay, so here's how. If you spend 90 million, 90 million on a factory with equipment, and you make a promise to bring manufacturing to America, to build Craftsman, to bring Craftsman home. That was the promise you made. And you spend 90 million on a facility, and you get these automated machines, and you get these automated machines from Belarus. What the fuck does Belarus know about automated tooling machines and forging fucking tools, sockets and wrenches and ratchets? What the fuck does Belarus? Belarus is not known for their high-tech tooling machines. I don't know why or where that ever came about, but this is true. You clip that. So they get these machines from Belarus. It's during the pandemic. Supply shortages, supply chain this, supply chain that, yada, yada, yada. And what happens? They decide not to test the fucking shit. I swear to God. So they get a Belarusian company that's not mentioned by name in any of the filings. So we don't know the company's name. Also, we don't know how much the equipment costs. That's also not disclosed in the filings. So we're not sure how much they paid for the equipment. But wouldn't you think that even after you spend all that money on all this equipment and you built this $90 million facility, or you spend $90 million on facility and the equipment, you promise 500 jobs, you promise to bring manufacturing, and then you start this plant up and things aren't coming out right. Why? Because you didn't bother to test any of the machines. You didn't have whoever in Belarus do any testing of the machines. And that was on you 100% because you didn't want to spend the extra money cutting corners. Why would you go to a Belarusian company that no one knows who it is, that no one knows if it even exists. I have no idea if any of, you can look all this up yourself. It's all true. But you go to that company, they build you a machine that's not working. What would you do if you bought a product and you brought it home and you turn it on and go to use it and it doesn't work? What would you do? I would get back in contact with whoever I just got that motherfucker from, and I would get either a replacement or repair it. But I need this thing to work because I got this $90 million facility over here that I promised to bring Craftsman back and manufacturing back and Craftsman back to America and job it back to America. And these machines are putting out a product that I can't put to market because the inconsistencies. And metallurgy is not an easy thing. Hot stays hot for only so long. It's very precise. You're asking machines to do the job of a human, and you can't implement knowledge into a machine. You could put information, you could do this, you could do that, you could program or whatever, but it's not going to be a human. It does not understand. It will never understand. Also, you can never shut down AI. Even if you wanted to, you'll never shut it all the way down at this point because it's too far integrated into everything. Sucks. That is the most irresponsible, ridiculously ran conglomerate next to the other three that I mentioned that I have ever encountered, and I don't understand why. But I do understand that I won't put a single penny into any one of their brands until they either decide to be transparent and honest with the consumer, okay? Put your shit at a price point that's affordable. Show respect to these brands and legacy brands that you've destroyed. And if anything, why don't you allow the public to crowdfund or come up with the money to buy some of these brands or sell it to somebody that's going to take care of them and actually do something good with them? But you won't because you don't want the competition. You'd rather hoard it all than destroy it. Perfect business model while you also destroy jobs and manufacturing, as if we needed any help with that. We don't. America, what have you done? You lost your way. You lost your way. Lost your way. Put trust in entities, organizations that let you down repeatedly, and you continue to let yourself be put in that same continuous cycle of disappointment. And I'm sorry for you. And I'm sorry for this country that used to be so looked up to and so revered, but now it's not the same America. Not the same. Not the same. Worse, better, I don't know, but not the same. Aside from that, listen, that's all. That's all for tonight. We'll be back and got some things in the works. I would like to build a community, like I said, very simple community, especially of technicians and people that are tool enthusiasts, so we could all help out each other and help whoever's watching, whoever subscribes, whoever listens. This is information, this is knowledge, these are things you should know. I don't know how many of you knew about any of the stuff that I shared with you, and maybe you could take something out of this and learn something from it and learn not to follow in the footsteps of these companies that have destroyed this country from within for no other reason than to make their shareholders wealthy. And just like I said, at the cost and the expense of the American consumer, the American economy, the American infrastructure, and a lot of these things, to get them back, it's going to be tough because the technology, it's gone. It doesn't exist. And the way this country is operating, they're not over here trying to spend money to bring it back. They'd rather spend $90 million and have nothing to show for it than to go back to old school blood and sweat, tears, hard work, elbow grease, and grit and grind to get the damn job done. Clip that. It's not about lifting yourself up off your bootstraps and toughen up. You can do that all you want. But you know what? You need a little bit of assistance from this country as well. They cannot continue to offshore or nearshore jobs. They need to bring back manufacturing. You need to reinstill the skilled trades that have lost. You know, you're not going to know how to do anything because you're going to rely on this technology too much, as Stanley Black and Decker and that $90 million disaster they got sitting there in Fort Worth. Might as well just turn it into a data center right now if you're not going to do anything else with it. Shit, turn it into a big paintball park or skate park. Do something with it. Shit, make a dog park for all I care. If you're not going to invest and make it right, remove that bullshit equipment, give it back to Belarus or wherever the hell you got it. You know what? Start bringing in the equipment that you had others build your tools for you with. Invest in that. Invest in that kind of equipment. And you can have it built here in the States. Yeah, we do have resources. We're just not smart enough to use our own. So we continue to dig a bigger, bigger, and bigger and deeper hole. It's not so much myself, my generation, or the generation before me, or the generation that's after me. It's that other generation, that new generation that's going to be suffering the most because they're not going to know shit. They're going to be clueless when it comes to any of this. If they think that AI is going to solve their problems, no. AI is not going to change your brakes for you. AI is not going to change your oil for you. It's not going to do any of that shit for you. AI is a mistake. It shouldn't even be here. But anyway, that's what I got tonight, gang. I appreciate all you guys and gals tuning in from wherever you're tuning in from. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but here you are, right here with me. And I appreciate you for it. Until the next one, gang, remember, subscribing, it's not mandatory, it's optional. This is a low pressure kind of channel here. I like interaction. I invite people on the show. I'm trying to do what I can in the situation that I'm in, being a disabled person, former master technician. I don't care about the word master. You can just call me a wrench. I don't give a shit. Makes me no difference. Why? Because it's just a title. A title means nothing if you can't do what the title is. So I can tell you I'm mechanical I want. I can tell you I'm a master technician all I want. But if I've never done anything in order to earn that, I'm being disingenuous. There again, you can go look at show. I could, like I said, look through some of my stuff. I got nothing to hide. I'm as honest as anybody that I've ever met. And I'm always going to keep it above with you. So remember that. Remember that. And if you have questions, reach out to me. I have no issue answering questions. You want to ask me an automotive question? If you think somebody's trying to pull one over on you, you got a certain code or something, you got a diagnostic question, I will be happy to answer it in any way I can. And I will never charge you a penny. I will never ask for any money. Clip this, clip that. I will never ask for any money. I will never ask for any donations. I don't need any sponsorship. Affiliates, sure. If there's a product I believe in, I've tested, I've used, I work with, and I can, safely say and stake my reputation and my name on it, that this is going to be all right for this use, and I feel good about it, I'll put a link in. I put a couple links in. But it's not for self-gain. I'm not over here trying to make money on you. I'm not over here putting 20, 15 links for you to go buy shit that you can't afford and don't need. But if there's a product out there that I do believe in, regardless if I have an affiliation with somebody or not, if it's not a good product, I'm not going to tell you to buy it. Not every product is a good product. And anybody who tells you every product is a good product, they're full of shit. They're just trying to sell you something. So just keep that in mind. I'll keep it real with you. Keep it real with you. Oh, oh. Anyway, I thank you all as always. Have a great Wednesday. Enjoy Thursday. Get ready for the weekend. Be safe. God bless. And I'll see you on the next one. Chill.